Okay. Today I'm going to discuss with you about public diplomacy and nation branding. So these are the two concepts you might be familiar with. So we are going to explain these two concepts: public diplomacy, what do you understand by public diplomacy, and how it is different from nation branding. So nation branding is a bit different from nation building concept, because when we talk about branding, it is about consumerism, like, and also it involves that marketing dimensions, and that's how it is different from public diplomacy. So when we say public diplomacy, it is basically a very politicized context. So you need to set the context of public diplomacy. So the context is highly politicized, where government will definitely involve. Government are the main initiator or the originator of that diplomacy. Okay, in order to create some economic and political incentive among the domestic audience as well as foreign audience, to create a favorable perception in the mind about the nation. So that is basically public diplomacy. So context is highly politicized, but when we talk about the context of nation branding, it is highly depoliticized. The context is depoliticized in the sense that it is highly image driven. It tries to create an image of India, of a nation, to create to make people consume that image, and to create mostly the economic incentive for the country. So the concept nation branding is in that way, it is depoliticized, because it is associated with marketing and consumerism. And if you look into the other variables, like whom it is directed at, and also who are involved as an actors, if government is involved, there are also other actors who are involved, the kind of strategies which are being used, the tactics which are being used to even to execute these two concepts are different. Okay, so public diplomacy is different from propaganda, although it is highly politicized. Not concept as well as in context also we get to see it is politicized, because it involves basically the government, foreign ministries, then also diplomats, and uh, even you see that the head of mission it involves. So in that way it is politicized, but we see that it is different from propaganda. So because it doesn't involve any kind of deception, it involves only the white facts, which is verifiable in that way. And when you talk about the propaganda, it is based on lies and deceptions, and that's how we cannot equate public diplomacy to propaganda. But the term public diplomacy was not a new one. It was coined during 1965 by Edmund Gallian from Tufts University. He first coined the term, and he has popularized that term in that way. And it tries to create a familiarity of the nation across the nation and also abroad. Familiarity about the nation, about the policies, about the image even across the nation and outside the nation. So that familiarity it creates, and it also creates appreciation about the nation. So it first create a familiarity, and secondly it will also try to create appreciation about the nation beyond the border or across the border. Okay, so it has to deal with domestic public as well as foreign public, and there is also a continuous engagement in public diplomacy, and that too in contemporary and present day public diplomacy. There is a continuous engagement with domestic public as well as foreign public, and this is called a two-way engagement. Unlike the previous public diplomacy, which are basically trying to strive more for hard power than soft power. So there are certain differences also underlying these two concepts: traditional public diplomacy and modern public diplomacy. So earlier public diplomacy were triggered at a hard power notion. They try to create that notion that the nation is powerful. We have invested lot many uh, that funds in even defense arsenal development, and to project the nation as a military power lies the public diplomacy concept. So context was again the politicized, and it also you see that the medium was basically one way flow of communication, and media was used, whatever media you see, the traditional media is mostly used, television, radio was mostly used, and mostly the international broadcasting, there is a model called international broadcasting were used, basically radios were used to cast hope and also to develop an attitude towards one ideology which is being promoted by nation. So now we see that in contemporary modern public diplomacy, we are not looking for that ideology interest of the earlier public diplomacy. We are basically looking into some ideas which could be consumed, and we look for much more collaboration between different actors. So we get to see divergent actors are playing a role instead of simply government. So earlier, government and media playing a very intricate role in promoting the nation as well as creating a perception of the nation. So there are certain models of public diplomacy. We get to see certain models like we have that international broadcasting models. That happens to be the oldest model of public diplomacy. Then we had another model. This is we say non-state transactional model. This is also another public diplomacy. Non-state transactional model is another model of public diplomacy, which is the contemporary new one, new model, present day model. We also have a domestic public diplomacy, domestic PR model. Basically, not public diplomacy, domestic PR model, which is also another model which also lies in transitions, not the oldest one like international broadcasting and non-state transactional. So it lies in between. So we actually have this tree model which is propagated by Gilboa. Gilboa has developed this tree model of public diplomacy. And Gilboa said that it is not a recent concept, it's not a new concept. So it has been there right from the very beginning when that radio, Free Asia, Radio Liberty, and Voice of America uh, radio were used for broadcasting purpose to create a favorable attitude towards one ideology. And when even during the Cold War era, those countries were using radio as a tool to create a favorable attitude to contending ideologies that they pursue. So, in that way, it was not a new phenomenon. So, international broadcasting model, it is one of the model of public diplomacy that happened to be the old model now. Earlier, radio had been used severely, and that is also part of media diplomacy. Let me tell you. So we also have certain form of media diplomacy which are intricately implicated with public diplomacy concept. Okay, so first we have these three models of public diplomacy. One is the international broadcasting, and then non-state transactional model, which actually involved the NGOs and civil society organizations, as well as IGOs in promoting the cause of the nation, and also put a pressure on international government as well as government to even create a favorable attitude for the nations and also solve certain cases. So when we talk about the public diplomacy, here we are not simply talking about the positive image, creating a positive image of the nation. Okay, unlike the nation branding. In nation branding, we only think about creating a positive, favorable image of the nation. But here in public diplomacy, we are equally trying to give weightage to the negative perception as well as the positive perception, trying to curb the negative perception, because we are also discussing the issues and threats which has already been perpetuated in this international world. We cannot disregard those issues, but try to minimize the effects of those issues through diplomatic missions. So that is what is public diplomacy. So when we talk about this mission, and we use media to reduce that the effects of negative the agenda uh, outside the nations. So when you say media, yeah, sorry. India don't have any international broadcasting channels like the US and Qatar, all the other countries have. Then we have AIR, so creating a gap in the media broadcasting. No, we cannot say that we do not have international broadcasting. We have AIR that came in 1939, and thereafter it has broadcast in more than I think 18 languages, or 21 languages, 27 languages it has broadcast. Okay, so and it has also broadcast in English for 8 hours, long 8 hours durations, and in other languages like Baluchi, then even Parsi and different other languages. There's 27 languages is usually broadcast about the nations, the kind of developments, the kind of initiatives and schemes that governments are being taken, and to create a favorable attitude, favorable perceptions about the nations. Huh. So in that way, it's not like that we are not into that broadcasting, but international broadcasting model is a bit obsolete. So we are also talking of, can you, yeah, let's minimize the speed. So you can also sit there if you want it. So you can, yeah, use that fan in the middle. You can use it. Okay. You need to find out which one. Yeah, that can also be used. Okay. Okay, so as I have already told you that earlier we had that model, international broadcasting model is a bit obsolete, but it's not like that we are not using that model. We also had AIR, we had broadcasting wings, external broadcasting wing, AIR had, that is not that strong just because you see going, so that is, you may say that okay, it is not that strong, but at the same time, and that's why perhaps we could not create able to create a segmented audience or niche audience. But let me tell you that what is important here is other actors, the involvement of other actors in creating a favorable perceptions among the uh, audience across the nations as well as in India. Okay, so that is one wing, that is one part of the model. We do not have a like radio like Voice of America. We do not have Radio Free Asia. We do not have Radio Liberty. But they do have the tendency to actually promote that propaganda rather than public diplomacy. We also see those radio at that point of time happen to be tool to, like, to a tool for propaganda. They use that propaganda. Okay, so there are also other actors. Most of the time, as I have already told you, that public diplomacy also involves media diplomacy, media brokers diplomacy. There is also called travel diplomacy at the same time. Okay, different media events are being carried out at different period of time, to create a favorable perceptions about the nations where media is involved to carry forward the image of the nations. So that may be any kind of exhibitions related to art, craft, any kind of film festivals outside India, involving the media at the same times, and media is carrying forward the image of India, the activities that India is undertaking across. So that is a new public diplomacy. We talk about new public diplomacy, but most of the time we are associating and equating new public diplomacy with digital diplomacy. But we have also several other variable, other aspects to entertain and accommodate in new public diplomacy. One is non-state transactional model, because we are also trying to bring in the civil society and NGOs to create an image of the nations. So they are also creating an image by basically curing the ills. They are also creating they are articulating divergent interest across the international forum, and also trying to pressurize the government for a favorable cause for the nation. Okay, so pressurize government to even, like, manage some of the ills, some of the, like, that cause that may damage the reputation of the nation. In that way, they can create a favorable constructive pressure on the government and try to create an image of the nation. Okay, it is all about creating a perception, creating an economic and political incentive for the country. So, who are the diplomat? The diplomat can be journalist, diplomat will be. So, when you say public diplomat nowadays, journalist will be diplomat, civil society agent will be diplomat, public itself are diplomats. That's why it is public diplomats. Public, that citizens of the countries are also diplomats at the same time. You also see that apart from this, like IFS, government, then also you see PR agencies and PR personnel. So there are different actors, different ministries, Ministry of Cultures, Ministry of External Affairs, and then also you talk about this, like even tourism board. So each and everyone are part of this public diplomacy. Okay, nowadays. But earlier, we limit public diplomacy to government and also those diplomats, because they are basically trying to create a forum where the issues of interest are discussed. They're also bringing different issues, and they probe for more information. Okay, they clarifying certain ideas and also clarifying some issues which are misinterpreted at the same time, and try to create an atmosphere which is favorable for conducting bilateral and multilateral relations. So that happened to be there. There are also traveling diplomacy when these foreign heads of the missions, they used to travel abroad over over plane by air, and then they sort out these issues over the plan. And media is accompanying. Media is actually accompanying in the sense media following the move of those heads of the missions and also foreign secretaries. So here media role is to follow the diplomats move and diplomats activities and report it. So in media diplomacy. But now again there is a concept called media broker diplomacy has come up. And in media broker diplomacy we get to see that media is basically elevate its role as a diplomat. Media is elevating its role as a diplomat, so involved as a diplomat. Okay, interviewing the diplomat as well as government and also heads of the missions. So then they perform the role of the diplomat. In certain cases, it is possible when the diplomat of other country is not freely accessible to diplomat of one country. Suppose Fidel Castro and Yasser Arafat, PLO leader, they were not even available for diplomat of other country, but they themselves made available to media to carry their image forward, to also create a favorable public opinion outside their country. And in that case media become a diplomat, because media is interview, because media is interviewing that leader, and his role becomes a like devil's advocate at the same time. And also media is trying to bring their issues out, and also trying to create a favorable opinion for them, as well as perhaps if you see in a reverse way around, a favorable opinion for the other country. So here the role of media as a broker, which is also a very new aspect or perspective of public diplomacy here. So that we cannot simply say that we did not have a vibrant that media channel or broadcasting outside, and that's why we are lagging behind. Yeah, we are lagging behind, but there are also other aspects of diplomacy which can also be strengthened to even to get the favorable outcome of public diplomacy. Right. So we cannot simply think that we do not have a vibrant, international broadcast. We are supposed to create it. We are supposed to create it, and for that, a lot of things come to play a role. Here, for that, we need actually a skilled manpower, which is very very important. And uh, also, you see at the same times when you're talking about this external wing of this broadcasting, that is AIR. So they're actually broadcast in 27 languages, and 2 hours in each languages every day they're broadcasting. So there is also a kind of lag in terms of translators. So that is one thing. So it is basically not because of political willingness, uh, but because of some of the other restrictions which I'm going to discuss today. And then we see that when we are talking about the nation branding, this is another concept now. Nation branding is different from public diplomacy. Now, you see, it is through public diplomacy also we can brand the nations, and it is through nation branding we can actually deal with public diplomacy. But today's public diplomacy, it's a much more consumption of, much more related to the consumption of soft power rather than hard power. Consumption of soft power asset. So it is also directed towards soft power asset, to creating a favorable attitude among the public and try to create compliance among the foreign audience through attraction and inducement. And through attraction and inducement means, connotes that nation branding effort. Nation branding is also very depoliticized context and as well as concept, because it is targeted at foreign consumers as well as national consumers, and it actually focuses on some of the visual elements, image related elements rather than the substance and content in public diplomacy. So, in public diplomacy, when you talk about the media diplomacy, suppose an interview, a press release, a PM's speech even, and also PM's write up and foreign ministry's write up published in a magazine. Okay, and any interview we get to see the content and the substance, so that actually takes the precedence over image and visuals. But in nation branding we get to see that visuals of that image, suppose that India incredible campaign. So visuals takes people, moves people, and to come and invest in India. So it is much more consumerist. Actors are also different here. Actors, although government is involved personally, basically private actors are also bringing in, and tourism industry, tour, and all this commerce. And even you get to see that tour board are also involved along with the citizens to create a image of India, and that is a perpetual image of India. Huh. And it basically uses, nowadays we are also migrating to online, so definitely it will be using this online medium. Even various travel agents are using this online medium to create a nation brand, actually create a national image. So regarding this, I have actually that presented one paper, how these travelers are trying to create an image of the nations, even through their journeys. Yeah, through their journeys to create an account, travel account of their journeys, and create an image of the nations through different imageries, vibrant imageries, and very immersive kind of writing, colloquial writings, and trying to draw people. Even draw tourists to India. Drawing tourists to India is also an effort of nation branding. So in that way, it is highly consumerist. It also caters to some of the consumers within the nations and outside the nations, and creating a perpetual, frame of mind among them. A perpetual frame of mind will be like frame of the nation in the mind. So it is all about strategic self-presentation of the nation. So when you talk about the nation branding, strategically presenting the nation in such a way that it looks very attractive. So and it looks attractive, it doesn't mean that it has some deception. It doesn't have that deception, so it has some persuasive element. Even you see that I have discussed about this Sibyanath's account, travel account. When travel experience, if you go through this travel experience of Sibyanath, he is talking about the sustainable travel. At the same time, he is talking about the community living in India. She is also talking about living in cottages rather than going for expensive that is resort. Okay, she's also talking about vegan food over meat. And also talking about participating more and more, participating, traveling, mixing up with communities, and also use local transport and bus. So that is also another dimension which is not explored much, but at the same time she's conducting workshop outside India regarding the sustainable living and sustainable traveling. Okay, so in that way, they are these are also travel agents are also creating a perpetual image of nation across India and outside India. Okay, so you get to see that's how image of India has been created. So image is not created only by the government. So they are also public. Okay, their public is also equally investing up in creating the image of the nation and branding of the nation, and create also a perception in our imaginations. They have an impact in our imaginations in the same way. So, because by reading Sebyanat, I could also find, okay, this could be possible. Traveling to this place could be possible. Suppose Tanya Khanizao, she's another travel blogger. She has said that you better go to those like snow-cladded hills and hilly areas if you want to like go for based snow-cladded regions. Want to visit a snow-cladded region, then you better go during the week during a season, so which is lean season. Okay, because that areas will not be overcrowded. So in that way also it will be environmentally sustainable. So instead of you going in during the very peak seasons or during weekend, you go in a weekdays, take leave and visit those regions during the weekdays, and not to overcrowd the regions. So that is also part of sustainable tourism. So they've come up with this concept, and which also create a kind of attraction towards our tourism perspective. Okay, which is very indigenous at the same time. So ingenious as well as very indigenous concept. In that way, that so these strategians have also tried to create a image of the nation and also contributed to nation branding effort. Okay, so you see that that is also part of public diplomacy. So I'm not saying that nation branding is not public diplomacy. Public diplomacy and nation branding, perhaps many people also have a different perception. Few said that nation branding is inherent in the public diplomacy spectrum, and few people said that public diplomacy is inherent in the nation branding spectrum. But difference between the public diplomacy and nation branding are that you see in nation branding the context is depoliticized and it is consumer driven. So in public diplomacy, context is politicized because you are trying to create favorable perception among the audience. But in nation branding, you are not supposed to consider the negative attitude, and any kind of negative image are not accommodated. Negative image of the nations are not accommodated at the same time. But in public diplomacy, you are also treating all the ills and negative perceptions and try to minimize that ills. You are treating it, you are managing the ills at the same time. You are taking it. So if there is a problem regarding internet freedom, you are taking it, you are discussing it, taking it forward across the international forum and try to minimize the harm out of or driven out of that internet, minimizing internet freedom or even disruption of internet during any kind of unrest in India. Okay, so taking both positive and negative agendas forward is public diplomacy. But agent maybe you see this actors or a agent, maybe Ministry of Cultural Affairs, Ministry of External Affairs, right? We also have Ministry of Overseas um, Indian Affairs are there, Ministry of Non-Resident Affairs are the agent, as well as the press, journalists, PR firms, government, and foreign ministries, IFS. So all are the actors of public diplomacy. And in media diplomacy, as it focuses basically on logos, symbol, unlike the you see the press release, unlike these government articles and ministries, foreign ministries articles or IFS articles in magazines and newspapers, some featured articles. Here we actually have sponsored website, sponsored web portal, sponsored logo in media, nation branding. So you focus more on a visual element, theory, nation building, unlike the public diplomacy where we focus on the content. So directed, as I have already told you, directed to consumers, directed to international audience and this domestic national. Budget you see that basically budget is campaign driven for nation branding because it is all about campaign, building a campaign. So it is campaign driven until and unless campaign is there, so that budget will also go on. And here in public diplomacy, budget may be like duration as well as budget, short term, long term, like mid terms, like that way, depending upon the project, any project which is being taken by this media. So here, what is the role of the media? Media can be a broker at the same time, as I have told you. Media can be a broker. Media can elevate its role to be a democrat, that diplomat at the same time. Media can simply cover and become the one following the move of the foreign ministries or heads of the missions or this or prime minister's visit and report it. Okay, and that these are even reporting any kind of media events. Okay, so these are the basic differences between the two concepts. Now you see the differences between the old public diplomacy and newer public diplomacy. Newer public diplomacy try to cater to the youth basically. It try to like it is targeted towards the youth, targeted towards the diasporic community, and targeted towards the key opinion former across the neighboring countries. So that is and that is you see distinguishing point in newer public diplomacy and you see that old diplomacy, traditional diplomacy. In traditional diplomacy, there is no segmented public. There is simply general public across the nation and outside the nation. But now in newer public diplomacy, we have segmented public. So youth is one segment of public who are politically enthusiastic. We are targeted those youth who are politically enthusiastic. Okay, and even like ITCL also created by this politically enthusiastic youth and created like job opportunities and trying to create a favorable image of the nations at the same time. Even they are also involved in other kind of unethical at the same times work because they are also into this moral policy. So that is another aspect. But yeah, they are basically targeted this politically enthusiastic youth, that is segmented audience. And another segment is the diaspora community. That is also very important to understand in terms of new public diplomacy, diaspora community, because diaspora community can render essential service to the development of the nations because we are receiving huge remittance from the diaspora communities. Yeah, now $100 million and into 2020, 22. Right. Earlier we have 89.5 and there is a raise of 12% remittance which we have received in last 2 years. And hence we can also see the patriotic sentiment of the diaspora can be rendered for contributing to development of the nations. And hence we are investing, new public diplomacy is investing upon the diaspora community. Again, there are also several schemes came up from the diaspora community, various schemes like overseas citizen schemes there, which came up in 2008 or 2006 even. Long back it came up to make the free visa entry of those overseas citizens. At the same time, in 2009, we have this person of Indian origin university was established in Bangalore. PIO University was established, and also Trace the Root program that is also made for those diaspora youth to understand overseas city. That is what scheme overseas citizen of India's card and the schemes to make visa free entry into this India. That came in 2006, I guess. And then we have this Trace the Root. That is another program that is also targeted to the diaspora community, diaspora youth, to understand, to comprehend their roots in India and find out the family and the relatives. That is also another program that is meant for them. That is a Bajra program is there, that is visiting advanced research, joint research program. Under that program, scientists and academicians, diaspora scientists and academicians are invited to spend a couple of years for a specific durations in India and contribute to research and development under this program. So you actually see that diaspora market is being targeted now for even creating a national image through Bollywood. Diaspora is actually see that even Bollywood movies have also targeted that market, right? The diaspora market, and also Bollywood movies are hugely popular in in UK, Germany, in Indonesia, okay, Saudi Arabia, hugely popular, and it has actually got this market. And Bollywood is a very important soft power asset. Okay, because it is through Bollywood, although we could not show the real India, so here it is all about image. When you are talking about the image, again, it has also a role to branding the nations. But when you talk about the content and the substance, it has lot to discuss and debate about the image of India. But when we look at those movies from nation branding perspective, we also get to see that those hybrid kind of aesthetics scene, okay, that glamour, that glitchiness, and also that urban landscape is being shown, Indian urban landscape, and they are also that are also interrelated with even those Western landscape, foreign landscape. So we get to see that's how they try to create an image of India. And the thing is that this Bollywood movies have already popularized some of the culture like Karbasha or Dandiya, very famous across the diaspora community and even outside India. So in that way, they have consumed this. These movies, Bollywood movies, have consumed this soft power asset and also create an image of India, branding the nations. So these are the culture through which a nation can be branded. Nation branding. When you talk about nation branding, it is not only about through place. It is only also through people. People. It is on also through government, through culture and heritage. Okay, and also through immigration. Hmm? So here, if you look at tourism, so we have different actors of the nation building. One is people that may be business and non-business perspective. We actually see business perspective. When you look into the business perspective, we talk about the people who could be recruited into nation branding, and also for public diplomacy. Non-business perspective, how hospitable people are to welcome those foreigners. That is an all business perspective of branding. Then we also look into the governance. Governance, if that could defend the interest of the country by way of following those eight principles. Now governance have those being responsive to people, being transparent, being responsive to the people, being engaging, being participatory, and also following the rule of law, if it can create a kind of engaging environment across the world or not. So that is important at the same time, right? And then what we see is that culture and heritage have a very important and intricate relationship with nation branding as well as public diplomacy, culture, heritage, and also economics. That is, we talk about this that economy, the trade competitive advantage for trade, for even tourism, is very very important, like appeal. So again, we also see that when you discuss about the public diplomacy and nation branding, we get to see certain appeal of the nation. One is cultural appeal, then regional appeal. Regional appeal, whether we have made that a transactional standard in that global community, that global community can deal with us, economically deal with us. They can create, they can also like come here and invest upon India. So that transactional ability has been developed as a region, so India is also a region, as a region or state. When you say as a state, whether we have developed that transactional ability to deal with the global community. We talk about the Bihu has been used as a, like, soft power asset last time. It has it has become a soft power asset, and we actually proved ourselves as a, you see, transactional, like regional appeal. We have proved our regional appeal because that transactional ability of Assam has been proved, and we can compete with the global community. Means not compete in a sense, we can transact with the global community through the Bihu. So that regional appeal is one aspect of, you see, public diplomacy, nation branding. Then we have cultural appeal, where the culture is being retained. It is also admired not only by Indians but also by foreigners, which is important. How they are admired, and that's why we are also trying to promote Indian culture outside the community. And this is more relevant nowadays when Julu in South Africa become the exponent Kathak dancer, right? And also we get to see Sinhalese. They are also like performing Bollywood numbers in club. Indian soap is being shown in Brazilian TV. So that's how we have retained Indian culture, like across India, outside India. So cultural appeal, emotional appeal is there. Emotional appeal about the nations, like for Indian, it is there when we relate ourselves to like nations, that commonality, that commonness, common heritage, common culture, common language, common that bonding. Okay, so emotional appeal is there outside India. It is through diaspora we can actually create that emotional appeal. We can actually transact it through diaspora community, right? And also a political appeal, which is important. Political appeal, we also see that here in India we are basically a secular country. We are also a democratic country. So we invest upon that secularism and democracy to create a brand of India, because India is also promoting liberal democracy and we are a secular country at the same time. And here we get to see there is also coexistence of atheism as well as religionist. So that is the proud moment for us, because we actually get to see cohabitance of both atheist and religions, and that actually project the secular dimension of India. So that is the soft power asset. Apart from ahimsa, non-violence, which are being promoted through all those lessons like Asoka the Great, then we talk about this even Akbar, then also in Buddhist Bhakti, Mahatma Gandhi, and now cricketers, they are also coming to fore to create a harmonious relationship of India with other countries, with neighbor countries, through promoting sports. Right, there is also sports diplomacy. It is through which we are trying to create a harmonious relationship with outside the neighboring countries and also other countries, and create a bilateral and multilateral ties with other countries through even sports, right? And also we talk about the fusion and how like Michael Jackson, Shakira have also espoused the Indian music. So that is also another like embracement and also consumption of soft power asset, Indian soft power asset. So in a way, we are also inducing these communities through soft power, through our music, through our dance, through our culture, right? Through our food. Food has also like acclaimed internationally. So like international community now prefer veggie food, thinking that veggie food can also help them to cure many ailments, right? So that perception they have like taken is also induced by India. Okay, that is a soft power indices of India. So when like people outside India are consuming veggie food, and even the chicken masala curry become the national dish in UK. So that is a kind of soft power asset of India, right? And then we also see that yoga and Ayurveda. So we'll say now you see the ministry. There is an that Ayush ministry. Ayush ministry has mandated that all IFS cadre are supposed to be trained to promote this Ayurveda, yoga, homeopathy across India and outside India. So it is mandated that this IFS Foreign Service Indian Foreign Service cadre is supposed to be trained. So in that kind of mandate, we actually get to see there are also other elements involved. There is more democratization of IFS cadre nowadays. This set and IS cadre, IFS cadres, and also the cadre has been characterized by this rurality and provincialism, in the sense that earlier there is a diplomatic poetism in the expression of language, which is not there nowadays. Diplomatic poetism is there in the expression of English language. Most of the diplomats that belong to this anglicized class, they're also educated in Saint Stephens and also like got a degree from Oxford. They come and join this foreign service and IS. Okay, so they do have a different tongue altogether. Their like that their language, expressive English, involved that poeticism. But now we get to see those accent doesn't matter, because what matter is instrumentalizing the activities through the English, and comfort use of English does matter nowadays. And that has also created much more diversification of the cadre and democratization of the cadre. And also you get to see that represent the caste, creed, and the very religion and also rural background of India. So that is, I think, that new the shift, or you see that, yeah, shift or change in the diplomacy and contemporary diplomacy, how we actually see that old diplomacy part away with, and also shifting and getting a new dimension. And then we also see that Hindi language, Hindi trend has also coming up nowadays. So everywhere you also see ICWA and ICCR. These are actually two important body entities and institutions promoting diplomacy. No? Indian Council for Cultural Relations and Indian Council of World Affairs. Indian Council of World Affairs have attained the Institute of Importance in 1953, I guess, and it was formed in 1943, and it has been publishing various books, various research till then. It has also, like, carried out memorandum of understanding. It has signed memorandum of understanding with more than 14 countries, like in relation to like academic exchange and even cultural affairs. And also with in regard to the other entities, Indian Council of Cultural Relations, it has branches all over India. 14 branches are there, and also outside India we have got 24 branches, I guess, outside India. And it has also, like, it has been trying to create an image of the nation. It also investing itself to nation branding through various exhibition, through film festival, through even creating and that constructing various media events, and creating and constructing that image of India through these events. Huh. And it has also got this 30 chairs, I guess, 30 chairs for Indian scholars uh, who provide training in Hindi, in peace studies, in history, in outside universities, and for 3 to 6 months. And there are also 20 scholars who can get the travel expenses. Outside scholar get travel expenses to come to India and study here. So there are different provision in that way. We can also see through which we are trying to that force that bilateral relations, multilateral relations in a way, creating a perception in the minds of people, creating the familiarity with the Indian culture, familiarity among the foreign youth, foreign audience, as well as, like, Indian audience. That familiarity as well as appreciations. So why all these are happening, and why there are other bodies apart from media? These very, like, institutions are also working, right? And these very institutions are working to create a favorable a favorable image of India in that way. Hmm? Then we see that digital, when you talk about the digital diplomacy, so it is all about shifting from need to know, then need to share practice. So there we get to see, if you actually visit the Twitter handle of PMO, as well as that Ministry of External Affairs Twitter handle, and also Facebook pages, we get to see this string of YouTube videos of the ministries are floated. And also, you have seen that portfolio of photographs are there in Flickrs, right? The first that portal was created in 2001, I guess, and then in 2010, first Twitter. um uh, yeah, Twitter was posted, I guess. So that, then since then we get to see that it has also created a favorable image of India. And there is an organic, it is claimed that it has it has been attracting an organic growth, because Modi's account is the eighth largest account, or eighth eighth most active account across the world. Hmm. Active account across the world. And also you see other ministries are also very active nowadays, especially the consular ministry of commerce. They're trying even to give response to different queries of the business communities to come and invest in India. And also this consular ministries, they are also very active in Twitter as well as online media. They also giving response to some of the maiden queries relating to visa and the passport, as well as some crisis related queries whenever needed, right? So in that way we can also see that digital diplomacy has actually revolutionized the public diplomacy. It has taken it to a level, uh, and also making it much more engaging. Huh. That is another aspect, public diplomacy. Yeah. Now you can come up with questions. Yeah. Any questions? Any queries?
Ma'am, is digital diplomacy free of propaganda? Because there are a lot of misleading posts and propaganda also in this.
So when we talk about propaganda, there is a very thin line between public diplomacy and propaganda. But public diplomacy, we can't equate it with propaganda. So when we say public diplomacy, we cannot equate public diplomacy with propaganda, because in that case you are actually subverting the whole image of the nation. You are projecting something, you are doing something, right? But when you talk about the propaganda, it involves that deception. It involves manipulation, deceptions of facts. Huh. Uh, uh, but few people might regard it as a propaganda if the statistics are being altered, if we also see that there are informations which are not truthful, but you need to bring up. So you need to make it visible if there are those cases. So that we can, propaganda can also be visible, and we can differentiate, separate propaganda from public diplomacy. So you cannot say that digital diplomacy is all about propaganda. And it is, in that case, we can say that social media is also all about propaganda. No, not the case. At the same time, social media has been creating a favorable public opinion of the nations. So it can create a favorable public opinion. It can also disrupt the public opinion at the same time. Because a lot of diaspora community and other community, they usually they plug into online media for more information about any events, any incident in one nations. They usually plug into for information sake. Huh. So and propaganda cannot be a tactic to persuade them towards a nation. So unless and until we have verifiable facts, uh, we cannot persuade them. And definitely they are not simply hooked into one particular platform, government platform, right? Or government Twitter account or government Facebook page. They will also hook into the other Facebook pages. Like apart from government pages, there are private sector pages, are there citizens pages, are there they're hooked into. So they will keep themselves abreast of the issues, right? So you cannot say that digital diplomacy is all about propaganda. It cannot be. Huh. But propagandist elements are there. You cannot say that it is devoid of propaganda. It is there. So we need to filter it out. As I have already told you, that public diplomacy consists of both favorable or positive and negative image of the nations. You are trying to uh, discuss all the disagreement, differences, and issues which even may cast a nation in in a very uh, negative way, but you try to minimizing the harmful effect of the nation, even if it is casted in a negative way. So that's what the mission of diplomacy. Anything else? Yeah. Anything else?
And this nation can be mostly done people outside the nation.
Nation branding cannot be done by outside the outside community of foreigners. It can be done only by uh, the the citizens as well as government. The government is the initiator. Many a time, government is the initiator of nation branding. So it is also followed by citizens, private firms, and also public sector undertaking, even the private companies to brand the image. First, it is initiated by government, but it is taken over by private sectors. So it is a sole responsibility of the national at the same time. But let me tell you, when you are talking about this public diplomacy, there is also international public relation fund, public relation firms. Let me tell you, they work as a broker at times, and many a time there are domestic public. There is a model called domestic PR. In domestic PR, what happen at times, in order to create a favorable image of the nations, we can also hire personnel from international public relation fund to create a favorable image about some nations or about our activities across the world as well as in this part. Suppose there is an incident during Saddam the Gulf conflict 1991, and also removal of Saddam Hussein, in order to create a favorable image of the nations, in order to create a favorable image of America in Egypt as well as among the American public, in order to gain the support of the American public. Uh, uh, that you see this that Kuwait monarch is being manipulated, who also hired that US fund, that an international, not US, international public relation fund, and monarch in association with this international public relation fund, create a campaign to alter the viewpoint of Americans in favor of this is what Bush motive, in favor of Bush campaign, okay, to remove Saddam Hussein. So in that way, there are some international public relation fund that is a part of domestic PR technique. So how the outdoor PR also that way. So outdoor PR to create a favorable image across the nations. So here you actually get to see there are collaborations even from the other, from Kuwait removing Saddam Hussein, from Kuwait even you actually see you are also taking help of Kuwait monarch. So that way. So that is.
OIC, or nation of Islamic countries,
Hmm.
or nation of Islamic countries, always try to deteriorate the image of India in terms of minorities. But India has a second most populous country in terms of minorities,
Right,
just like
right.
Muslim.
Hmm.
How does it affect the Indian image in the global?
Sorry.
How does it affect the Indian image in the globe by
Uh,
the perception that is built by the OIC or nation of Islamic countries?
it will not affect much because you see,
They
we
always try to defend the India
yeah,
through
they will
minorities.
try to defend the India, and we can also like have a counter, program for the counter campaign. So in that way, so we can also project that okay, we have the second largest country inhabiting the minorities. So like that way, it will not project and cast a very ill will
But that is
across
the
the people.
largest organization.
Hmm?
That is the largest organization. Almost 15 to 55 countries are the part of the OIC.
But Islamic
Because
countries
you
in the
see that
global
that's why you see at times you
But
also
they
take
have
into
to
account this that
establish the
populist
yeah,
policy. That populist policy has also some implications in nativism as well as that nationalism. Huh. And it is associated with that fundament, like you see now the Modi's populism. It has lot to do with the party affiliation, lot to do with fundamentalism. So in that way, you say it will not cast any kind of ill will among the people, because we are also getting tourists from Middle East and Saudi Arabia. Even like Bollywood, Bollywood is the second, like, largest market in like Saudi Arabia, and tickets are sold. Bollywood tickets are sold in 1 billion in Saudi Arabia. Until and unless this advent of OTT platforms, now OTT, through OTT platform we get to see Bollywood movies got a, like, spread. But you cannot even say you, and most of the time you cannot abstract this kind of effort. So we also see that that happened in terms of China also, because it is also part of some of the diplomatic missions of US, when US trying to promote this liberal democracy as well as human rights. They also try to pressurize, in the effort, try to pressurize China. Even this Clinton regime tried to pressurize China to go for democracy, liberal democracy, and also protection of human rights. So that was also part of, like, that is the media diplomacy event of this. Huh? These are the tools of diplomacy of Western countries. These are diplomacy, diplomatic tools, diplomatic tools. So there are some kind of pressures you will receive from other countries. If there is a hegemon sitting, so not necessarily the American image is very pure across the world. It is not a pure image. So, if even if you carry out a survey across the Indian public, we cannot get a favorable image of America among Indian public. So it's not a pure. And America has been always very, you see, strategic to create its image across the world. Huh. So it will not create much difference. It will not affect. So if somebody is trying to create a very ill spell or ill cast on our perceptions, and across among their public, and across the outside public, it will not matter most. It is more about how we are investing, how we are working in terms of making our image. So that does matter. And economy plays an important role. Sorry? Then also the economy plays an important role there. Yeah, yeah. The financial benefits, yeah, of both of the countries. Right. Okay.